Hello, everyone. This is Mike Feldbauer from the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation coming to you today from Flagler Voice Podcast Studio here in Palm Coast. I have a very special guest with me this morning. I'll introduce you to him in just a minute. So hold on. We'll be right back. And here we are. I'm in the studio today with a friend that I've met now, not that long ago, probably a couple, 3, 4 months now. We've been doing some stuff together here at the
That's about
studio,
right.
and Will has his own podcast, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we get into this to it. So say hi to Will Brown.
Hey everyone, hi. I tell you, I'm new to it. I'm new to podcasting. I love it, and yeah, I want to switch it up and talk about more serious issues here.
Okay.
We talk about Will's world, and some things are joking, some things are serious, but I want to talk about something that plagues everyone. No matter the demographics, race, you know, uh, economic status. It affects everyone. It's sad.
Yeah. And Will might seem like an unusual guest for me to have, okay? Because at his present time, he's a private detective.
Yes.
He has spent time in law enforcement
Yes.
in a variety of ways, and we'll talk about some of that.
Mhm.
But he has also seen things as it relates to the world of recovery and substance abuse. And I thought it would be good to have Will come on and talk about maybe some of his background, where he got to see some of this, what he's seen, how it relates to us today working in the world of recovery. So, what do you say?
Hey, let's do this.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Well, I don't know. I guess seeing everything from the federal aspect all the way down to the streets. And I mean, the federal part being that we will see working with U.S. Customs or ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. They have drug enforcement, immigration, and also dealing with point of entry for various items, legal and illegal.
Mm-hmm.
We will see large amounts of drugs, different types of drugs, and people smuggling them into the country. And you see it all the way till it gets to the streets. And
Yeah.
the horrible part is that it's it's a financial thing. It's all business. It's a big business, and it's sad. And they play on everyone. They play on the weak. They play on people that are, you know, that must have this particular substance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad. It's sad, and it's really a weakness that can be overcome with the community. The community
Yeah,
can
it
help.
is. And you keyed the whole thing. It's all about the money.
It is. It
All
is.
about the money. We've seen that time and time again. We see as different states, and I think most of them are suffering as they legalize drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the money makers are still there.
Of course.
Okay, we saw it this past election where they tried to change Florida and have it a recreational marijuana,
Right.
where they spent $110 million, I
That's
think,
right.
trying to get it approved
That's
and
correct.
trying to make people think it was really no, it wasn't about recreation because you couldn't grow your own.
No, no,
No,
you
you
can't
had
grow
to
your own.
you had to
Right.
go to one of their
Of
stores
course.
and buy it. So it's
Just be
all
taxed.
about the money.
Right. It has to be taxed.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's about that, and it does. And the people that are involved with it in the money making side, they really get to understand and know how to market their
Of
products.
course. Of course they do. That first round may be free, and then after you go back to that same dealer, and then costs a little bit more and more and more, and it's always chasing that high, that rush that
Yeah.
our bodies produce naturally,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's been replaced with this drug. Either if it's a coping mechanism, or whatever, or just dependency on this
Yeah.
particular drug.
And like I tell people that in the 12 years that I've been doing this, I've never met one person that was suffering from substance abuse addiction that wanted to be an addict.
No, no, of course not.
That's not the start.
No, no,
That's
yeah,
not, most of it relates to how do I cover whatever this pain is, whether it's from a trauma, from
that's right.
medical,
That's
it
right.
can any number. And you really keyed on it. The fact is, it has no boundaries.
None whatsoever.
No,
It's
it's not about physical boundaries. It's not about living in a junky place or living
No,
in a high end place.
no,
It's not about color. It's not about
no.
ethnicity. It's not about any of that.
That's right.
It has no boundaries.
That's right.
Of course, and you probably will confirm it. Most of the overdoses and things that we see here in our county, they're not in the down neighborhoods.
No, no.
They're in the up neighborhoods.
That's right.
It's where
That's
the
right.
money is.
That's right. It's all about money again.
Yeah,
That's it's sad. It's very sad, and there are people that want to stop, and you can look at them, and people like to social media like to joke about it, make light of it, but it's sad. It's when you see people that are trying their best to make it, just make it through the day, and they're relying on this substance,
yeah.
whatever it is. It could be alcohol too,
Oh
to
yeah.
make it just to see the next day.
I know it's incredible, and one of the things that we tried to do with the Drug Corps Foundation is educate our community,
Mm-hmm.
so people have a better understanding of what this disease
Yes.
is really about,
Yes.
and where most of the causes of them come from.
That's correct.
Because most everybody has this view, and I say it on every broadcast, so people might get bored with it, but they have a view of people involved in substance abuse addiction as they're all some crook someplace. It's all some Hollywood movie in the
Yeah.
back alleys of New York, Chicago, L.A. It doesn't matter. No,
No. No.
that's no.
Of course
It,
no.
it's like you said. It's everywhere. Number
That's
one,
right. That's correct.
it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we do tell people that a lot of times that
Mm-hmm.
the family that runs our Narcan
Yes.
division, okay,
Yes.
because we were the first in the county to get a grant
Excellent.
to give Narcan away,
Excellent.
okay, as a
Excellent.
nonprofit.
Yes.
But the family who runs that lost a daughter to an overdose,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they lived in a
Oh.
guarded, gated community.
Of course.
Okay,
Of course. Of course.
you're not safe anywhere.
No. No.
That particular pusher got in,
Oh, of course.
and quite frankly, if I needed to, I know I can get into every guarded gated community in the community.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, not hard,
Oh, it's not. It's not hard at all.
not hard at all.
It's not hard at all.
So they got in there, and that's when our sheriff, after a very detailed investigation for a long period of time,
Right.
arrested the pusher
Okay.
on
Great.
murder charges.
That's what it should be.
And he was the first in our county to go up on murder charges. And since then, Sheriff Staley says every overdose death gets treated as a murder until proven otherwise.
Right on. Right on.
So,
He's doing a great job. Yes.
and this young man
Mm-hmm.
went to prison, made some kind of deal. He got only 30 years, but he's going to be 30 years with no early release.
Right.
Okay.
That's good. And that's good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And but it's a shame there's how many lives got ruined.
I know. I know. And it's a shame because when it comes to fentanyl, it's been plaguing our streets everywhere. Someone thinks that they're getting one drug, they're getting another. And at one time, they thought about, hey, just putting people in prison is just the key. Doesn't work. It's almost like putting someone in prison for having cancer. But yeah, going back to the sentencing part, yes, if you know and you know what you're selling can kill somebody, and especially the smallest amount, yes, you're a murderer.
Yes, you are.
You're a murderer, and you know that you're gonna make money off of it, and lots of money, and then people are gonna come back, to get this drug, even if it slowly kills them. Yeah, you're a murderer.
That's
a
it.
shame.
One of the other things is that we are trying to change attitudes, like I started to say,
Yes.
that if we keep saying to Joe Smith over here,
Mm-hmm.
you're nothing but a bum.
Right.
You're never going to be anything other than a bum. You're going to go nowhere in your life.
Yes.
You
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
You hear that long enough, that's what you become.
Right. It's self-fulfilling prophecy.
So we have to turn that around.
Right.
We have to understand it
Mm-hmm.
as a community.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
And start treating people differently.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's correct. That is correct. Even when it comes to juvenile corrections and detention, it was one of those things where I would tell people, hey, the thing you need to say is, hey, little Johnny, you're usually a good kid. Why are you doing this? Instead of saying you'll never be anything other than, drug dealer or
Right.
or a killer or whatever. If somebody goes around stealing, and you're setting the precedence for it. It's no way. You have to actually help that person by building them up, being positive, point them in the right direction.
Right. Not enabling them,
Right, not
okay?
enabling.
Not
Right,
enabling them,
that's correct.
but pointing them in the right direction and taking the attitude as you see on the sign behind me. It says hope.
Right.
We want to
Yes.
instill hope in those people
Yes.
that are suffering from that.
That's correct.
And we also want to instill hope in the families that are suffering from the results of those things going on
Those
because that's real.
those are real victims.
That's there's no question about it.
That's correct.
But we have to get to the point where the families understand it also.
That's correct. And they're the real victims. And when we talk about enabling, it's very difficult
Well,
when it's a family member and you say you don't want them to be homeless, you don't want them to be without, but then you don't want them doing drugs. You don't. You can see them killing themselves. You can see them destroying their lives and others around them. But it's very difficult being that one to say, hey, how far is too much? How much, or what's enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? And then
yeah,
they end up either in a facility, or killed, or
yeah,
other overdose. I mean,
yeah,
what's the limit?
yeah. We say that there's basically three areas that somebody into substance abuse can go. Okay, they can go into recovery,
Right.
they can go into jail,
Yes.
and they can die.
That's right.
It's one of those three,
Right.
and one of those three it affects every person that's involved with it.
And Mike, the prisons. That's another thing. There are more drugs in the prisons than you find on the streets. Because when I worked in a prison, we would do sweeps of all the cells. We'd definitely find drugs. We would find all different types of drugs, and we'd find more in the prisons, and it was a higher value. And there were people trying smuggling drugs into the prison again for financial gain.
Yeah,
Yes. So,
yeah. One of the ladies that was part of our group early, she's had some medical issues, so she hasn't been able to do much.
okay.
Her son was a victim of addiction, got himself in legitimate trouble, okay, ended up in a Florida prison, and ending up dying of an overdose. And she had this guilt on her forever because he said he contacted his mom and said, I need $50. Okay, to whatever, buy cigarettes, get stuff out of the commissary, or whatever you call them.
Yes, yeah.
And in that particular case, the drugs were sold to him by a prison guard.
Of course.
And
And it's sad. We would shake down the guards, and
yep,
catch them, bringing in cell phones and drugs. Cell
yep.
phones. And,
And that's one of the things that got us heavily involved in the Narcan because they
mm-hmm.
found out at that point, in the prisons at that
Mm-hmm.
point, the only place Narcan was in the prison was in the medical office.
Oh, that's not helpful.
Okay.
No,
The
no.
prisons are big.
You're right.
Okay.
They're huge.
So she worked for the longest period of time. Now the Narcan is in every section where they can
Oh,
get to it.
that
So it's
was.
because they know it's going to happen.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Okay. And we looked at it here and said, man, that's fantastic. The work she did, I think she worked for 2 years
Right.
to try to get that done
Right.
and finally was able to get it accomplished. And we looked at the same thing with our Flagler County school system.
Yeah.
Okay. We
That's
now have Narcan in all the schools and hope
excellent.
is never used.
Excellent. Excellent.
So
Excellent.
that's
And
that's one of the things
police
that's
cars, so on. You need them in patrol cars. Back when I worked at D. Ray James Prison up in Georgia, Folks in Georgia, during that time there was no Narcan, and the prison was huge. I was in a huge cell block, and most of mine were my inmates were mostly gang members. So gang members were running drugs. They decided to put the gang members in one building. Of course, they put me in the middle. I was an admin, and I said, okay. At that time I was also did hostage negotiations, and I was the also a reentry instructor. And so I saw riots, all different types of things. But when you notice people using drugs, if you saw it, you need to act on it. And I would always act on it and say, hey, listen, oh, we need to bring in bring in the CERT team, which is the guys with the big armor, stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
Goes and takes everyone down and searches everything, and so they can remove drugs from the pods. Because just being aware of this, makes a little bit of a difference, at least some difference, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah,
But it is it. People say that there's more drugs in prison
yes,
than there is on the streets.
yes, most definitely.
So that certainly isn't a way to correct a problem.
No, not at all. No, it just feeds this horrible problem that we have, and it just constantly grows. It's one of the things that when it comes to hiring people, you have the hiring process is very difficult because in a prison where say there's about a few hundred inmates, let's say about 600 inmates, 700. I can't remember at the time. We didn't have 100 guards. We didn't have 100 guards. Okay.
Wow.
No, no, we had maybe like 70, something like that. We didn't have that. But and then think about it. How many in the group that are thinking, okay, I have financial issues and so on. That's why when it comes to questioning them about interviewing process and so on, we'll say, okay, if inmate offers you, let's say, a bribe, what would you do? And like everyone says, no, 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 no. Well, there are a lot of wealthy people that are inmates, and the point is that you go ahead and you take that money or something like that, then you're part of the problem too. And then they say, hey, well, I'll tell because you did this, so you have to do this for me. It's a chain reaction, and then before you know it, it's like one person was bringing drugs into the prison inside their lunch, like pasta, spaghetti. Put the bag inside. Yeah, oh no, they have machines that swab your hands. They have X-rays, everything. When I was offered a job, first thing he asked me, he said, "Do you have, when it comes to anyone offering you a bribe, what would you do?" I said, "Well, everyone has a price, but mine would be $1 trillion." And they
Okay.
said, "What? Have you lost your mind? $1 trillion?" And they said, "That's impossible. That's insane." I said, "I know." Because if it's if you're gonna do something, it better be worth it, and something like that would just no. So
Yeah.
that's why I say I do it jokingly, of
Yeah.
course.
But that's it. You
I
kind
wouldn't
of
do
you kind of wonder, being a guard
that.
in any of those situations, do you think about, do I want to be a prisoner here?
Right.
Okay, and that
That's why
can happen.
that's
So
why I said $1 trillion. I'm joking, but no,
yeah,
there's no amount of money that'll make me
yeah,
want to ever be in a prison. That is the most horrible place you could ever think of.
yeah.
I
I look
think
at
consult.
one of the good things I think we do here in Flagler County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I've visited several other counties and I haven't seen it as yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it will spread.
Right.
Is that in our local county jail?
Uh-huh.
Okay, we have two pods, one for men, one for women,
Okay.
that are dedicated to help people in substance abuse.
Excellent. Excellent.
They get treatment 5 days a week.
All right.
It's a program they voluntarily go into. They have to be interviewed. They got to blah 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 blah
Mm-hmm.
on all this kind of stuff. And obviously, what they're in for can't
Mm-hmm.
be super violent, that kind of stuff.
Right. Of course not.
But
Right. Right.
so many of the people being arrested today on drug charges,
Right.
it's related. It might be even a B&E just so
Right.
they have money to buy the
Of
drugs.
course. Of course.
Okay, so nonviolent, non-sexual stuff
Right.
they've got a 90-day program that
Right.
people can get into,
Excellent.
and then they work on a
Excellent.
program to get people ready when they depart.
All right.
So we have things going on here that our sheriff and the chief out at the jail
All right.
are doing a tremendous job. They say, fool around our county,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get you,
Okay.
but we're also going to give you an opportunity never to come back.
All right.
So between the pods for substance abuse,
Mhm.
they have great job training programs in our jail.
Uh-huh.
They have HVAC training.
All right.
They had, I think it had electrical training,
Excellent. Excellent.
food management training.
Right.
They had car wrap
Right.
training.
All right. Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
do all these things that can provide good jobs for
Right.
people
Right.
when they get out.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
inmates are the people that are arrested are really talented people. Like a lot of the inmates that I know say they were very talented. They would build just anything you could think of,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you have to watch leaving something behind or something because you'd be surprised what they would turn that into.
Yeah, we always just said if they could turn that same mentality into legitimate things, they'd
Thank
be
you.
making a fortune.
Thank you. And another thing I think we didn't touch on would be the mental health part because this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and also, if you already have issues, let's say a mental health disorder, and then you either have been addicted, introduced to drugs, or you try drugs, and that mixes with the mental health part, and also the drugs that are prescribed for the mental health part, interacting with the street drugs or whatever, that
Yeah,
could create a huge problem as well.
I agree. You can't separate mental health from the world of addiction.
No, not at all.
Okay,
No,
they're always there at some
that's
point.
right. That's right.
But it's and we the thing that frustrates me and most of my team is that we have so little help here in our county
Right. Right.
for these things.
That's right.
We need to get more help. We had at one point in time we had a detox facility.
Right. Right.
Okay, and then the organization at the detox facility moved it to Volusia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
well none of them are big enough.
Right. Of course.
So now the one in Volusia is getting mostly people from Volusia who need it. They have one in St. John's, the same thing. So trying to find an empty bed when somebody wants detox,
Right.
which is,
Right.
gives you a very short period of time
Right.
to,
That's true.
to get that accomplished. Otherwise, they're going to go use to cover that pain again.
That's
So
true. That is
it
absolutely correct. You know,
it
I'm glad Staley's taking the actually proactive approach. To
yes,
actually helping with this drug epidemic problem. Trying
it
to
is.
eliminate it. But
Yeah.
be a deterrent.
Well, he mentioned the fact that we're on 95,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of drugs passing through,
Who are you kidding?
and I think they've confiscated enough fentanyl already, probably
Yes.
to wipe the entire county out
Of course.
twice.
Of course, that's a drug. That's a drug. And the interstate is like the drug traffic highway. The money. I think drugs go north on 95, and the cash comes back. So when a lot of smuggling goes on, like you see a truck that goes by, or a car that's like leaning a little bit in the back. It's like a little way down. Yeah, we would see those in ice, and we hit the lights, pull over, talk to them, and usually a highway patrol will pull them over, and then they'll call us or something. But yeah, it's a lot of drugs are being sent from, let's say, the port of entry, like Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They come in from boats, narco subs, and they're put onto, or let's say, dropped from planes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're put into vehicles and
yeah.
driven all the way up to New York and distributed. It's
Okay.
sad.
I tell a funny story that in my aviation flight time, I had wanted to be a pilot for a long time and finally became a pilot. Bought a small airplane
All right.
and was enjoying life. And it was where I was working. I was actually in the automobile business back then.
All right.
And a customer came in, and we started talking. I said, "Yeah, I got that." He said, "How'd you like to pay for that plane in one day?"
Yeah, it's sad, but that does happen. It's very common.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, it wasn't the $1 trillion, but it was tempting. But I
Yeah.
said, no, I
Okay.
don't want knowing what I know from family members that have been in law
Yes.
enforcement. And said,
Yes.
once you're in, there ain't no out.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a way out. You're gonna end up in a box.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your only way out. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
so I think that's one of the better decisions I
Oh,
made.
of course. Of
Is
course.
saying, no, I think I'll make the payments on it. I need the credit history.
Right. Right. Of course. Yes. Yes. And, I mean, imagine going to prison. I mean, it's in rival drug dealers, and they put these drugs. They value these drugs over human life. So, no, it's not worth it. It's never worth it.
No, not at all. Not at all. So tell me a little bit about how you got into your world from the law enforcement and now into your world of being a private detective.
Well,
Let's tell people a little about Will.
okay, all right. Well, my father actually, and well, most of my family members kind of got me into it a little bit. I have an uncle that's about, he should be 80. He was a homicide detective in Jersey City. He's retired, of course, now, but yeah, but he fought in Vietnam. Came back and became a police officer in Jersey, and he's always been there for me, taught me different things about policing on in and outs. And it was my father. Father was a bail bondsman, well-known bail bondsman in Volusia County, and
Mm-hmm.
had a little nickname because his birth certificate says Lee, middle name Roy, and last name's Brown. So put it together, and then Leroy Brown, like the song. So yeah, Leroy Brown bail bonds. So and I believe at that time, because he was born in '33, he was like the I think first black bondsman for that area. So he went way back, and he was bonds everyone out. Everyone knew him. He covered the county, everyone, whatever. And my dad always told me, he says, and my mom too. I said, hey, uh, if you ever get in trouble, you're gonna sit. You're gonna sit there. And I was like, oh well, okay. So yeah, he was gonna bomb me out. Well, if he did, I was gonna sit there for a long time. And he knew also the sheriff at the time, Ben Johnson. So they even had the police on his side. So I said, okay, well, I and then I started like around 13, about 13 years old. I became a police explorer. I
Excellent.
was I was on a pistol team and everything, teach you how to shoot guns and everything, and they taught you all things of law enforcement and everything. So it was very interesting, and I did see a lot of stuff on TV, and that changed things because TV was a little different than real life, as you can see. But yeah, I got to see real life. I got an idea of what involved policing. I said, okay, and I did that, and for a brief stint, got into computers, and I said, okay, this is too boring. Maybe this is my line of work I need to be into. So I did go into I did graduate from University of North Florida with a degree in double majored in criminal justice and political science, and started internship working with Immigration Customs Enforcement in Jacksonville, and we were I got my security clearance. Did a lot of well work for them, and went through every department: foreign gangs, drug unit. Um, Let me see. Of course, there's immigration and intellectual property rights. And you like to joke about that. Saying it was the handbag enforcement team, the fake handbags and stuff, where they have, you know, Gucci handbags, but then it turns around that they're made in China, so they shut them down, shut down the operation. So yeah, we did a little undercover work there. And it was great. I was also a state officer there in Jacksonville area, and did that a little bit. But at that time, I have to go back a little bit because right after ICE there, I knew my dad was going through a lot of health problems. He had passed away from cancer. He had a heart attack from a blood clot going to his heart,
Mm.
and but some cancer treatments and so on. And I a little bit before that, I became a private investigator. It was an ad that my sister saw. She says, "Hey, maybe was something you were into." She was a private investigator at one time too. She was an intern, CC, and she was great at it. But she says, I don't want to have to, deal with all the stuff, and but you look like you would like, I know you would like that. So I said, oh, okay, of course I would like it. So yeah, and then I started working with the company called claims verification and a lot of insurance crimes and stuff, and I caught a lot of people committing insurance fraud, and did a lot of interviews and learned the process, got licensed and everything, and then I ended up meeting the guest from my show, Mike Glover, who's just former homicide detective,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "You want to learn some real case? You want to learn some real police work here?" And I said, "Well," he said, "I heard you were good, so come on." And oh boy, that started a lot of stuff. So homicide cases, um, everything from that to spousal infidelity issues, stuff like that, divorce cases, you name it. And I learned a lot. He was a homicide detective. He went through every division like I did, and yeah, his dad was a former sheriff of Jacksonville, and yeah, he was very very knowledgeable. A lot of things that he taught me what to look out for. Um, how to conduct yourself. Oh, of course, how to conduct yourself as an officer or investigator, and what to look for in different patterns and different trends in crime. So yeah, and that's where I am now. A little old, a little worn out. I'm not worn out yet, but just, back hurts a little bit.
And you're not
But
that old yet either.
I don't know, law enforcement years.
Well, I
I,
don't.
I,
Okay.
could, I could retire, and they say 20 years is the as a cutoff. But no, I'm nowhere near that. So I'm gonna do it until eventually I just fall over and they say, all right, well he's gone now. Throw him, throw him in the box. He's done. Yeah, I enjoy I really do.
And now you're starting something a little new also.
Yeah, the podcast is
You're doing podcasts. You got your own show, Will's World.
yes, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay. And everybody, you see the glasses? Okay. That's a Will's World identification
Oh
there.
yeah, this is Will.
That,
I don't
that,
think anyone notices me or recognizes me without the glasses. They'll say,
yeah.
hey, man, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah." So I have to do
Yeah.
it. I have to
I
do
tried putting them on. I couldn't see. So,
it. Yeah, it's a little difficult seeing it, but it's cool.
so again, you've gone through all aspects of law enforcement
yes.
and both federally, statewide,
Yeah.
locally,
Federal. I
and
mean, not federal, but I mean private sector.
mm,
Yeah. Private sector's another one.
and now into the private sector is your main.
20 years.
You've been a private detective for almost 20
Yeah,
years.
because I left. I came back. I said, no, maybe I don't want to do this. And I came back, and it just draws me back. So I said, okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna stay. That's it. Maybe it's my calling. I've helped a lot of people, so maybe it's a sign.
Yep.
It's a sign. What can I say?
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, where do you see yourself now in 4, 5, 6, 10 years?
Ooh, good question. Hopefully, I want to train other investigators. I have another investigator in Jacksonville and a few others around the state. I want to try to train them and say my form of my style of investigations, and also maybe I can maybe we can make a difference because I conduct a lot of wellness checks for insurance companies. Make sure that no one's taking advantage of the elderly. They're receiving their benefits on time, of course. And of course, you make sure they're not trying to commit fraud against the insurance companies. But a lot of times, I never see anything like that. But I see a lot of people trying to take advantage of either the elderly or people that are receiving these benefits. And I receive these files all over the state. So it's just about a rapid expansion to try to get more investigators to try to just, do a little bit of a visit. Sometimes a surprise visit if they don't answer the phone or if they don't, they notice the number and they say, hey, I don't recognize this person. And I tell them, I say, great. And then they call their claims rep, or if they don't even call them up, they'll hang up and tell me where to go and and how to get there. And I said that's a good sign. I said perfect, and I'm not upset about it. I'm great. I'm like, hey, this is what I want because I want them to be aware of all the scammers out there and the people trying to take advantage of them because it's
Yeah.
too late once the act is done. Someone cleans out their bank account. Yeah, banks have insurance policies, stuff like that, but a lot of times that money's gone and
Yeah.
they're at the end of their lives.
Well, that sounds cool. I really appreciate you being with us today,
Thank you for having me.
offering a little different perspective as we talk about the world of recovery and then, of course, your background and everything going into that. And I know you're going to be spending more time here in Flagler County. You
Yes.
Got a local office that you're putting together,
Yes, I do.
and
Love it here.
we're looking forward to you to be part of our group,
Yes.
and you come in and you can talk to our team, give us some insight on what's going on
Yes,
and
sir.
what we need to be doing at, and take a look locally what's happening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And and for you folks out there, we're looking for you too.
Yes.
Okay, we're looking for more physical help.
Yes.
You got some gifts that God has given you that you can use to help people, and you have a heart to help them. Get a hold of us.
Please.
Okay, physical help and financial help.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, we do have a golf tournament coming up on May
Ooh.
24th,
Oh boy.
which is one of our premier fundraisers of the year. So if you want additional information, please feel free to contact me with any questions or information on what we do, how we do it, if you want to be a helper. And we'd love to hear that you want to play golf, bring a team in. We're looking for sponsors, all that stuff. You can reach me at 401 864 6997 or M Feldbauer, FELDBAUER @gmail.com. Well, like again, thank you
Wait,
for being.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. Are you going to be in this golf tournament, or are you going to?
Well, I don't really play golf.
Oh.
It is best ball.
Okay.
So if I wanted to play,
Okay.
I would play with a putter.
Okay.
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 And then take whatever the best shot of the rest of it. But actually, my main job
Okay.
at the facility is to drive the golf cart.
All right,
So,
great. Right. You can be the
um,
driver. We might need to get a Flagler voice team together. Hey,
well, yeah,
Alan,
we're talking about putting a team together, and I
I'm
think
down.
Alan is looking for one more on his team. So
Oh,
if
I'm
you're
down. Yeah, ready.
okay,
Yeah,
and then
sounds
we'll
good.
probably do some remote
All right,
out there because, as you know, now the
that's perfect.
podcast studio we're getting more into doing more remote stuff. We've got some cool software that's enabling us to
Yes,
do a lot of stuff that others can't do, and we're getting into it and we're learning how to do that.
sounds
So
great. That's for
we'll be
sure.
do that again. Will, I thank you for being with us.
Thank you for
We'll
having
be
me.
back with you in in a short time, folks. Have a good day.
Have a